Welcome to a new day. I have a coffee, so if you don't have one, stop the video now and go make yourself a coffee, because we are going to chat about SFE. I hope you have your coffee as well, because I just finished my second week of SFE, which is basically like Swedish for beginners or Swedish for immigrants. It is a course that is funded by the government, which is amazing, so it is free for me. In last week's video, I talked more about what SFE actually is and like why I wanted to do it. And from now on, I think I'm gonna do weekly updates. I might miss a week here and there, but I'm gonna try and do weekly updates and just tell you how it's going. So this week was, I think this week was pretty good. I am definitely still getting used to a new schedule. We are very used to being able to like decide what we do in a day, just wake up and decide what we're gonna do. That's not possible anymore. Monday to Friday, I'm gone from 9 to 12:30, and then that's a big chunk of the day. So we have kind of struggled with getting everything done that we want to do, and that was also why I had a little breakdown yesterday afternoon, because I was just feeling very stressed about all the things I want to do, but I feel like I don't have time for. So getting used to a schedule is definitely still ongoing, but I am very motivated to keep doing the 5 days of SFE and actually learn Swedish, because if I stop now, I know that I'm not gonna learn. So I want to continue. One thing I noticed this week is that I do understand more of what the teacher says. I am less clueless of what is happening and what he means and stuff. So that's great. That is a good thing. And I also realized that by doing I think I did Duolingo, the Duolingo Swedish course halfway, I feel like it has taught me a lot of words and some of the basics, but I also feel like it's kind of more a guessing game. A guessing game in what grammar you have to use, and then also in how things are pronounced. So there are certain rules for things of how you pronounce different letters, and also different letters differently according to the vowels and what's the other word for vowel? I know the other one. Vowel and you have A, E, O, and then you have K, R, S. So depending on if an O is behind a K, there are different ways of, that's not the exact thing that it is, but it really depends on what letters are behind each other, on how you pronounce stuff, which there are rules for that I'm learning now that I did not learn with doing Duolingo. So I do feel like this in-person stuff is very helpful, but I also feel like Duolingo was very helpful to get some words in, because that should be okay, right? So we get these very simple printouts, just some very simple text that's just I'm coming from, I was born in Stockholm but now I live there. I go to school, I like to play ice hockey, I don't like to do the dishes. That's this text. So that's everything that's in this text. That's, for me, very easy. And I feel like if you haven't done Duolingo before, or if you come from zero Swedish, this can be more difficult. But then we got this one, which is a lot more text. And this is a text about a mother with 2 children, and she's going to get some clothes and shoes and stuff. And it understood the story, but there are words that I don't understand. So then I just pick out those words, I write them down, I look them up, and then I understand more. And then after the story you have questions to see if you understand everything. And for me that goes pretty easy. But then this one. We also got a lesson about this, which was very helpful. So it's more grammar and I even don't know the English words for stuff like this, but it's I, you, them, they, it, how you say that in Swedish, which in Duolingo I was always more guessing on what word goes where, and with these lessons I actually understand the rules, which makes it a lot easier. And then we also had a little thing about like at words and n words, which words you put at or n before, which is basically more like in English would compare to like an apple or a mug, like the a or n, which I feel like compares to at and n in Swedish, but it's not exactly the same. And in English there are like clear rules for those ones. In Swedish the rules are a little vague. And then in Dutch it compares to de and het. So it's basically what comes before the word, if that makes sense. I hope it makes sense. I hope I'm not just rambling here. So you have een bil, which is a car, or you have het huis, which is a house. And here it's all in English, that's both a, so it also doesn't translate completely. And there are some rules, but then also it is like you have to learn what words are what, basically. Because en bil is en bil. You can't say et bil. I mean, people understand, but it's not correct. So if that makes sense with that explanation, I don't know if it does. I hope. And then you can also know if it's a longer sentence. You can know if it's an et or n word by how other stuff in the sentence is written. So there are like hints in the sentence to know what kind of word it is, which was very helpful to learn about for me. So because of Duolingo, I do understand a lot of what's happening, words and stuff, and what the teacher says. I do feel like week 2 I think there wasn't really a time where I didn't understand the teacher. In the first week there were a lot of times where I didn't really understand the teacher and I was like, what are you saying? And now I just understood what was happening, which was great. That is good progress, I feel like. I do feel like I can, like in my head, I can think of a sentence, but then actually writing that down or saying it out loud is still very difficult. I feel like there has to there's something that has to click in my head before that can happen. So like I'm chatting here in English, which is not my first language. Dutch is my first language. And I feel like I learned English by a lot of talking. I spent 6 months or 8 months in Australia only talking English, which was very helpful. I feel like I taught myself English by watching TV, by watching Friends. So maybe I need to watch some Swedish TV. If anyone has any recommendations for specifically Swedish YouTubers, because we don't have any other streaming platform, so it would have to be Swedish YouTubers. If you have any recommendations for me to watch, then that would be great. And also easy books, because I would also like to read some books. But then I also don't know when I have time to do these things. And we did buy some let me show you. Hold on. So over this like 1.5 years that we have lived here, we have been buying some books here and there that were just like cheap and looked fun. So this is an actual like novel, which is way too hard for me right now. This looks like gibberish to me. And then this is a children's book, so it should be a little bit easier. And it has like some bigger letters, which I don't really mind, but this should be a little bit easier. And then I feel like these two should be even more easy. And then we have just some children's books. Something about dinosaurs, and then some more like actual children's books. And then I also got a Donald Duck, which here is Kalle Anka, which is fun that it's actually a different name. So I need to read these. I actually have, this is the only one that I have read completely. And then when reading this, I just read the what's there. I basically just read the page and then I translate with my phone and see if I actually understood what's been said. But I feel like I can now actually read what's there without actually using my phone. Actually great that I can do that after 2 weeks. So I need to start reading those again, but I have no idea when I have time because I'm already stressed about when I ever get to do stuff. So I don't. I think reading is also a good way to learn, and then watching TV is also a good way to learn, and then I can put subtitles on it. So if anyone has any Swedish YouTubers specifically, let me know in the comments and I can watch that. What else? So for me the hardest thing definitely is speaking, and then also writing it down, but I feel like that's basically no, that's not the same. There are some like tasks where you have to like write a letter about stuff, and writing it down is still easier than when someone asks me a question and I have to say a full sentence. Then I kind of like panic in my head and I just can't think of words anymore. We also did have one where the teacher was holding up letters, and then he would point at someone in the class and that person has to say a word with that letter, which sounds very easy. But when someone asks you a word with an R, like what's the first word that comes to your mind now with an R? I couldn't think. My letter was the R, and I just couldn't think of a word with R, which now I can think of 10, but like on the spot, I couldn't think of anything. So yeah, I don't know, my like, it needs to be in there more for me to be able to actually talk in Swedish. I feel like I understand a lot when I'm reading, but speaking is something I need to focus on. So that is definitely my biggest motivation of going to the classes, because I am very motivated to actually speak Swedish, which we are here to stay in Sweden, so I want to speak the language. But I do feel like there is already a little improvement in that in class, because we did have 2 other new students this week. We had to do like a round where you introduce yourself a bit, and this time I could actually say it in Swedish and not in English like last week. So there is a little bit of improvement in there. I just really wish it would be quicker. But that's just me, I like to do things quick, and that's not always the best way to do it. Slow and steady, and I will get there. I will improve every week. And now I am gonna read a little bit from my phone that I prepared before, which will be in Swedish. So anyone that is Swedish, let me know if I'm pronouncing stuff okay. I feel like in the last one, people were very encouraging, actually. So thank you so much for that. I loved reading all your comments, and I did love reading that people could understand what I was saying. I was actually quite nervous to put that online because I didn't know how people would receive that, like how strict Swedish people would be with me talking Swedish. But you were all very encouraging, so thank you so much for all your lovely comments. So I will just read this out loud, which is easier than just saying it out of my head. So I hope in 2 weeks time I can do this without my phone here, but now I do need my phone. It's only week 2. Okay. Hej! Jag studerar svenska på SFI. Nu har jag studerat i 2 veckor. Jag förstår ganska mycket svenska, men det är fortfarande svårt att prata. I mitt huvud kan jag koda meningar, men det är svårare att säga dem högt. Vi lär oss också grammatik i skolan, och det hjälper mig mycket. Jag hoppas att min svenska blir bättre varje vecka. And I did translate this through like Google Translate, so I also don't know if this is correct. So if it's not, also let me know. I would love to be corrected wherever I need to be corrected. So if you have any more questions about SFI in general or my journey with SFI, let me know in the comments and I will answer them in next week's video, week 3. And that was my update for week 2 of SFI. So that will be it, and we will see you tomorrow. I'm just gonna hope it's in focus the whole time. Otherwise I will look at the screen. And we don't want that.